Picture this, it's early 2025, and the skies over Britain's economy are darkening fast. Not metaphorically, okay, actually metaphorically, but still. The air feels weird. Mortgage rates are rising like a boiling kettle left on too long, commercial property is rotting from the inside out, and no one in charge seems willing to say the word crisis. But you feel it. It's that unsettling sense that something big is coming. And no one, absolutely no one, is prepared.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
This isn't your usual market correction. This is what happens when every fragile piece of the economy decides to give out at once. We're talking about a convergence of economic pressures that's threatening to reshape the UK in ways that might feel almost apocalyptic unless you've got a bunker full of dry goods, 3 income streams, and a fixed-rate mortgage you locked in during the before times. Let's start with the pressure cooker that is the mortgage market. Around 1.4 million households are due to remortgage in 2025. If that sounds like a dry statistic, think again. That's 1.4 million families, people with kids, pets, stress ulcers, and maybe a Peloton they now regret staring down mortgage renewals with interest rates that could slap them with an extra hundreds of pounds a month. For many, the math just doesn't add up anymore. Welcome to the era of the payment shock. People are quietly defaulting, banks are quietly panicking, and if you listen closely, you can almost hear the sound of spreadsheets bursting into flames. But here's the kicker, prices aren't falling. Not really. The housing market is stuck. It's like trying to sell a haunted dollhouse no one wants to buy, but no one can afford to let it go either. If house prices drop too far, we enter the dark realm of negative equity, and the government really doesn't want that. So they're doing what governments do best. Nothing in public, everything in backrooms. Policies are being floated that sound helpful on the surface: longer mortgage terms, relaxed conditions, but in practice, they just stretch your debt out like cling film over a cracked dish. You're not fixing the problem. You're just making it last longer. And while the residential market is stuck in limbo, commercial real estate is straight up disintegrating. Remote work didn't just change the way we live. It annihilated the logic of office buildings, empty towers, deserted retail parks, and high streets turning into ghost towns. This isn't a short-term dip. It's structural collapse. Banks, already exposed through massive commercial loans, are sitting on what experts are calling a £300 billion time bomb. That's billion. With if even a fraction of those assets go belly up, the ripple effects could make 2008 look like a warm-up act. Meanwhile, we're being told the job market is strong. Really? Because it doesn't feel strong when people are juggling 3 zero-hour contracts just to scrape by. The unemployment numbers look low, but only if you don't count the zombie jobs roles that exist in name only, offering barely any hours and no real stability. And for younger people, it's a wasteland. Underemployment is the new normal, and career paths look more like a scavenger hunt. It's less what do you want to be when you grow up and more what can you survive on this month. Now layer on the rental market. Because if you thought buying was bad, try renting in 2025. Landlords are pulling out of the buy-to-let game in droves, spooked by tighter regulations and miserable margins. Supply is shrinking, demand is surging, and rents are hitting record highs. People are paying half their income, sometimes more, just to live somewhere with a functioning boiler. And don't even think about moving to save money. That flat you passed on 6 months ago, it's now £400 more per month, and someone already beat you to it anyway. Let's not forget inflation. Or rather, the inflation you're not supposed to notice. Official figures might try to convince you it's under control, but tell that to your grocery bill. Essentials, bread, milk, toothpaste, your emotional support bottle of wine have quietly skyrocketed. The core inflation number might be chilling at 3%, but the real-world number, the one that lives in your weekly shop and energy bill, is doing backflips over 10%. Your money is shrinking by the day, but don't worry, the government's got a plan. It involves taxing you more. Yes, the looming tax avalanche is another delightful twist in this slow-motion crisis. Council tax reevaluations, income tax creep, stealth wealth taxes. It's all on the table. Middle-class families, the very group that was told for decades that hard work equals security, are about to find out what it feels like to be squeezed until the pips squeak. And if you're already struggling, well, austerity 2.0 might be making a comeback tour. All of this is happening in the context of growing global chaos. The US is tightening monetary policy, China's economic engine is sputtering, and oil prices are edging toward the kind of levels that make heating your home feel like a luxury. Britain, already weakened by Brexit and a string of economic miscalculations, is particularly vulnerable. Capital is fleeing to safer shores, supply chains are still brittle, and geopolitical instability is pouring gasoline on the fire. So where does that leave the average person? Somewhere between disoriented and quietly panicking. Pensions are wobbling, savings are evaporating, and the old rules about how to get ahead don't seem to apply anymore. The mood is shifting. There's this undercurrent of anxiety, subtle but growing, that something fundamental is breaking. And here's the part no one really wants to say out loud. This might all be intentional. Not in a shadowy conspiracy theory way, but in a slow, bureaucratic managed decline kind of way. Think about it. Every major institution, the banks, the government, the regulators, knows exactly what's coming. The data is there. The trends are clear. And yet, the public response is muted, controlled, like someone is trying to let the air out of the economy just slowly enough to avoid panic, while quietly shifting the burden onto individuals. You're not crazy for feeling like you're being left to fend for yourself, because in a way, you are. The era of government safety nets and institutional stability is showing its cracks. If you want to survive what's coming, you need to start thinking like someone living in a system that's not built for your long-term success. Cut your debt. Build multiple income streams. Get comfortable with uncomfortable skills like negotiating, budgeting, and maybe even gardening. No joke. The next few years are going to reward people who stay light on their feet, not those who assume things will go back to normal. And for those of you already feeling the squeeze, know this. You're not imagining it. The walls are closing in, but that also means you're already ahead of the curve. You see the signs. You know the game is rigged. And that awareness, that's your first tool. You can't fix the storm, but you can build a better umbrella. The perfect storm is forming. And no, most people aren't ready. But you don't have to be most people. If this whole breakdown of financial doom and mortgage misery felt eerily familiar, maybe it's because you've lived through economic nonsense before and you know how quickly the story shifts from "don't worry, it's fine" to "oops, everything's on fire." So don't wait for the headlines to catch up. Prepare now, speak up, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be one of the few who make it through this mess stronger than before. Now it's your turn. Are you seeing these red flags too? Are you prepping for the storm or hoping it passes over? Let's talk about it in the comments, and while you're down there, hit subscribe if you want more breakdowns of the chaos no one else is brave enough to unpack. Stay smart, stay skeptical, and above all, stay out of variable rate mortgages. Alright, so let's zoom out a little. Because this isn't just a housing crisis. It's not just a mortgage crisis. It's not just commercial real estate, or jobs, or inflation, or any one thing. It's all of it together. That's the part people aren't wrapping their heads around yet. You've got this huge group of people who think, well, housing might cool off, but I've got a good job. Or, sure, rent's wild, but at least inflation's going down. That kind of wishful thinking is what leads straight into a financial ambush. Because these aren't separate threads. They're tangled, coiled, and pulling each other tighter by the day. You can't cut one without making the whole mess snap. Let's get real about something. We've been living in a fantasy. A low-interest, high-credit, property-obsessed fantasy that's been running since the early 2000s. And now, we're waking up. The interest rate sugar rush is over. The cheap money party has ended. Central banks have quietly left the building, and the hangover is brutal. And you know who's feeling it the most? Millennials. Gen Z, basically. Anyone who didn't buy property before 2012 is now stuck playing a rigged game. You're either spending half your salary on rent or barely clinging to a mortgage you got during that 5-minute window of affordable interest rates. Meanwhile, your wages are stagnating, your savings are melting, and your avocado toast is now £11.95 for some reason. Here's a cruel little plot twist. The government's response to this mess might end up making it worse. Because instead of facing the music, they're trying to play DJ with broken speakers. They're floating ideas like 40-year mortgage is 40. As if stretching debt across generations is a solution instead of a slow economic death sentence. You want to know what that looks like in practice? It's your future kids helping you pay off the house they still can't afford to live in. And don't get me started on the banks. The same institutions that played fast and loose with lending during the boom are now tightening the screws hard. Lending criteria are stricter, deposits are bigger, and if your income isn't pristine and bulletproof, good luck securing anything. And for those already in the system, watch your backs. The second you're seen as a risk, the offers vanish, the terms shift, and you're left refinancing into a nightmare. Now let's talk about wealth. Specifically, how it's being quietly siphoned out of the middle class. You've got people who did everything right. They saved, they bought a house, they worked their way up, and now they're watching their net worth evaporate in slow motion. Inflation eats the savings, taxes eat the income, and house values just sit there, bloated and illiquid. Meanwhile, if you're part of the ultra-wealthy, congrats, you're largely insulated. You've got assets in multiple countries, diversified portfolios, and financial advisors that speak in acronyms. But for everyone else, it's like being stuck on a sinking ship while the rich are already halfway to their private islands in lifeboats made of gold. And let's not pretend this is evenly distributed across the country. London's pulling one way, the North's pulling another, and places like Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland are dealing with a whole different set of pressures. Regional inequality isn't just a buzzword, it's the reality. Some areas are facing housing shortages and exploding rents. Others are haunted by empty homes and zero investment. It's a patchwork of dysfunction. Which brings us to the social side of this. When housing becomes a battleground, society fractures. Generational divides widen. Renters blame landlords. Landlords blame the government. Boomers blame avocado toast. Young people blame boomers. And politicians. They just blame each other while quietly pushing policies that somehow make everyone worse off. You can feel it, that tension, the low hum of unrest. It's in the protests, the strikes, the sudden appearance of tents in city centers. People are snapping, but not all at once. That's the scary part. It's like a slow-motion car crash where you see it coming, but you can't look away. And no one's really hitting the brakes. So where's the hope? Is there any hope? Actually, yes. And this is a big but. It's not coming from the top. It's not coming from some magical policy shift or economic bailout. It's coming from the people who are quietly, methodically preparing. The ones who see the signs and decide to act early. Let's be blunt. You cannot rely on the system to save you. If the past decade has taught us anything, it's that stability is not guaranteed. And if you're waiting for someone to show up and fix it all, you're going to be waiting a long time. This is the era of self-defense economics. That means getting your house in order literally and figuratively. Cut bad debt. Diversify your income. Build skills that actually matter in a downturn. Digital literacy, budgeting, trades, anything that makes you useful when the economy tightens. Forget the dream job narrative. Right now, it's about being adaptable and uncancelable. And no, that doesn't mean living in fear. It means living with clarity. Because once you see the cracks, you stop being surprised when they widen. And that gives you power. Power to plan, power to pivot, power to protect the people you care about. Look, no one wants to be the doomsday prophet. But at this point, if you're still pretending this is all just a rough patch that'll sort itself out, you're in denial. What we're heading into isn't just a correction, it's a transformation. The UK economy is shifting. The housing market as we know it is becoming unsustainable. The cost of living is being redefined. And trust in leadership, let's just say it's circling the drain. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. Quite the opposite. The people who survive storms aren't the ones who scream the loudest. They're the ones who act while everyone else is distracted. The quiet planners, the early movers, the people who choose reality over comfort. So yeah, the perfect storm is here. And no, most people aren't ready. But if you've made it this far into this script, you're not most people. You see the warning signs. You feel the tension. And whether you're stuck in a flat chair or sitting on a mortgage time bomb, you know that waiting around isn't an option. Now's the time to tighten up. Pay attention to your money. Learn, adapt, build. Because when the dust settles, and it will settle, the people who made smart moves now will be the ones helping rebuild whatever comes next. And hey, while the media is still pretending this is just another market blip, let's be the ones talking about it for real. Drop a comment below. What are you seeing in your area? Have your mortgage payments gone wild? Is rent out of control? Is your job suddenly feeling less secure? Let's keep this conversation going, because knowledge, honestly, might be the only real currency we've got left right now. And don't forget to subscribe for more no-fluff breakdowns like this. We've got more meltdowns to unpack, and trust me, this is just the beginning. Here's the part that really stings. Most people won't realize what's happening until it's already too late. That's how these slow-motion disasters work. There's no single, dramatic headline that says UK collapses. No flashing red alert that tells you to panic now. It's quiet, incremental, It shows up as a slightly higher grocery bill this week, a rejected mortgage application next month, a friend who loses their job, another landlord selling off a flat. By the time you realize it's a pattern, you're already living in the fallout. But let's make one thing crystal clear. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about pattern recognition. It's about looking at what's already happening and saying, all right, this is bigger than a one-off problem. The people who shrug it off, the ones who think the government will just step in, are going to be the ones blindsided when that safety net turns out to be full of holes. And speaking of the government, have you noticed the vibe lately? It's giving dad went out for milk and never came back. They're in full radio silence mode, quietly adjusting tax brackets and whispering about council tax reform, all while hoping nobody asks too many questions. When policies are rolled out, they're buried in jargon. When inflation gets reported, it's the sanitized version. You almost have to admire the commitment to gaslighting an entire nation. Meanwhile, you're the one trying to make rent, fill the tank, and somehow stay optimistic about the future. You're supposed to save for retirement, build a deposit, keep your credit score spotless, and still have enough energy left over to make dinner after your commute from a suburb you can barely afford. Honestly, surviving in this economy should count as a full-time job. Someone give the entire UK population a medal for most resilient under ridiculous circumstances. And look, some people are still winning in this mess. But it's usually because they've either already secured their assets or figured out how to play the game differently. They own multiple properties, they're sitting on savings, or they've got businesses that thrive in downturns. The rest, just trying to stay one unexpected bill away from disaster. So what do you do when the system feels like it's been designed without you in mind? You start designing your own system. One where you reduce your reliance on unstable jobs, predatory lending, and a government that's treating you like a temporary inconvenience. Start small, start smart, but start now. Because the storm isn't coming anymore. It's already here. And the people who recognize that, who adjust before the full brunt hits, won't just survive. They'll thrive in the aftermath. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not comfortably. But with strategy and stubbornness, they'll come out the other side stronger than they were going in. So, what's your move? Panic quietly, or prep loudly? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want to stay one step ahead of the chaos. We're not done yet, this story's just warming up. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.